This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Let's agree on that one, and let's talk about the next match. It's another WrestleMania rematch, which seems to be a theme. It's Edge and Chris Jericho. To catch you up, Edge returned from injury at the Royal Rumble, won the Royal Rumble, and earned a championship match of his choosing at WrestleMania. Of course, Edge would elect to wrestle then World Heavyweight Champion Chris Jericho, but loses. And on the following episode of SmackDown, after being refused a rematch, Edge attacks Jericho, allowing Jack Swagger to cash in the Money in the Bank and win the title. And after a number one contenders match between Jericho and Edge goes to a double countout, it's announced they're going to face each other in a steel cage here. They get plenty of time, 19 minutes and 59 seconds. Meltzer liked it, 3.5 stars. He says another very good match, although I thought their Mania match was better because it was more wrestling and less climbing. His chief complaint is they use the cage a lot. It doesn't matter to me at this point because we know what the game is, but to some, all the cage work doesn't fit in with the no blood doctrine. What'd you think of the match and the idea, I guess, that we haven't really talked about a WWE style cage match, but when you grew up in wrestling, there was no climbing over the cage. The first one to the floor wins. It's not about escaping. It's about making sure you can't escape. And there was usually a fair amount of bleeding going on in a cage match. And it's a new era. The WWF has always allowed you to climb the cage and be the first one out. And I guess that was a way to avoid a pinfall loss on maybe a guy like a Hulk Hogan or whatever. But now in this era, we're not even bleeding. What do you think of the match? And then what do you think about WWE cage matches?
Well, you got two of the most creative guys in the business, Jericho and Edge. But when the stipulations involve escape, why would my hero ever run away from the fight,
right,
and climb over the cage and drop to the floor? That looks like a coward to me. Now, heels can get away with that, but the whole premise of a cage match and some of the evolution of this industry, I am so proud of and so in awe of and just thrilled to see how the business has evolved as far as athleticism and just incredible things story-wise and physically that these kids can do on the male and female side of the ball. But the fact of the matter is a simple story with a cage. Now, going back to the day, bad guy kicks the dog shit out of the good guy several times. And when it looks like the good guy is going to get his comeuppance, the bad guy takes off and runs. So, okay, let's put him in a cage where the bad guy can't get away, and it's everybody on earth knows it's payday. And it's time to get locked in like a criminal or an animal or whatever you want to, however you want to look at it. But that bad guy is in dire straits and he don't like the situation he's in. And the good guy comes in and shuts that door behind him and goes, okay, here we go. And what happens afterwards is payday. The bad guy gets slaughtered. And you get a 1, 2, 3, and he's bleeding to death, and everybody's happy. And you blow that angle off and you move to the next. That wasn't broke. Didn't need to be fixed. That whole premise absolutely worked. And you can still get a 1, 2, 3. You can beat a guy half to death, step on his chest on the way by if you're the good guy, and walk right out the door and get your same pop. It wasn't broke. There was no reason to have, how many nights I saw John Cena running and crawling over the cage and hanging there and getting pulled all the way back over. It just is one of those deals. Now you start looking at, okay, where the problems come in with this rules that we have these days. Okay, good guy goes up top, bad guy goes up top, they're fighting. Let's just say the bad guy gets knocked back into the ring, what is to prevent that guy from dropping down and walking right across the ring and getting out of the cage if a guy takes a bump off the top? He's hurt. There's all kind of things. Guys that get over the top and they're sitting there hanging by their fingernails, and the guy's a little too late and he doesn't get up there in time, and he reaches over and he pulls him back over when the guy could have just let go and dropped. It's not better. In my mind, it does not make for a better scenario. But that's the rules of WWE, and they think that's great, and it's their company, so it is what it is. I think the old style of cage match is a lot more self-explanatory and a lot more gratifying for the fans.
No argument for me. These guys, as you said, though, did their best here. Pretty good outing. Meltzer would say Edge worked over the ankle with moves that aren't over to the WWE universe, so they didn't get over as much live as they would have to the TV audience with what told the story. Of course, Edge gets the pin after a spear.
And this is just, for me, it's just, I know what it was, but when I go back and watch it, it even hammers the nail even more. There was a point in that match where Jericho dropped Edge, walked over to the cage. They opened the door. He stepped out, got on the first step. Now it was clear that he could have won the match. But he looks back at Edge and he steps back through and says, "No, I'm not done with you." Had the announce team just simply said, "Oh, Jericho's in full control now. He don't want just this kind of victory. He wants to go in and just torture Edge, punish him. He feels like he's got such an advantage there. This is probably going to be over and it's going to be nasty." If you would have put a little more ill intentions in Jericho's mind, other than hammering the fact, and they all jumped on it. He's stupid. How stupid is he going to be? This is going to haunt him. They gave the finish away, and they made Jericho look like a dumbass, other than being a vicious prick that's got a guy hurt, and now he wants to go in and have his way with him. That would have made that a much more pleasant viewing situation. Hearing it for the first time, don't you think?
I do. Let's talk about the announce team. It's a different version of an announce team we've seen. The biggest thing that sticks out about the announce team is Matt Stryker, who's of course no longer with the company. He's doing some independent stuff, and I think he's done some AAA stuff. He's been a polarizing figure as a commentator. What do you think of Matt's commentary work?
I thought Matt did a good job, but this ain't on Matt. It's not on the announcers. You know where that came from?
Vince.
The same guy that buried Sting when he wrestled Honor.
Right.
Big fish in a little pond. It's just another example of being fed lines that do not add to the match. Just burying a guy to be burying him. That whole scenario of match would have changed if they would have just backed it up, because the scene was set. That all they had to do was talk about what they're looking at. Edge was down selling, looked like Jericho could have easily walked out of the cage, decided he double backed and he wanted to torture this guy. It would have just gave it a different feel. And I just wanted to, to just express that, because that's how easy things could be fixed if everybody was on board. Okay.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.